Hi there. The Church of Nowhere and the Human of Nobility, or the Noble Human. There is a concept that there is such a thing as Homo virtuous, which is a theoretical human construct or constructed from a particular view of ethics and morality, which we won't go into here, but suffice to say it is the perfected human of any gender or orientation, obviously. But this perfected human has attained a certain level of awareness of its place in the universe and its connection to all things and its inclusiveness of all things within its idea of what is human and what is of value to preserve and to create and to protect um, the rights of sentient beings against attack. So I suppose in that way, non-violently, it is opposed to systems and groups and individuals who would destroy those rights. And this whole preamble is really about a video that I watched from Danny Shine, from Social Experimentalist, which came out 3 years ago. It's probably one of his best videos, and he certainly didn't intend it to be anything out of the ordinary. But it is the most extraordinary one-person socio-political protest that's ever taken place anywhere, and certainly the best one that's ever been filmed, and probably the best one ever to be filmed on this particular network. And it starts off pretty kind of ordinary, really, although his message, I suppose, is extraordinary and one which would be shared by the Church of Nowhere, in that ultimately nothing exists. Not only is there no God, but there's no me and there's no you. We are just, patterns of energy on a blank sheet of paper, which is the void, which is just the something, which is just the energy matrix, and we don't actually exist, but it feels so real that for all practical purposes it does exist, and it must exist because there are moral paradigm or ethical lifestyle or suggestions for an ethical lifestyle or lifestyles arise out of this supposed non-existence. And so you can see how real and persistent it must be, this persistent universe that we perceive. But our perceptions actually don't amount to anything either, really. Anyway, so this was his broad message, and but he didn't really even have time to complete it. Which, of course, let us look at this in detail before I go on to say what happened next. And I've been doing yoga for about 40 years. And it seems to me, I have perceived two sides of the same coin, perhaps. One side is that nothing exists and it really doesn't exist. And the other side is that things exist. And if I have, you know, um, if I have an empty stomach, then the nerves feed my brain and I become hungry. And I wish then to fill my stomach with food in order to nutriate my body complex, mind complex, so that I can continue to function. So that is real enough. But also at the same time, simultaneously, nothing is actually real. And that's my sort of conclusion from many, many years of doing yoga and meditation. And so within this world that supposedly exists, there are fetters, there are obligations to one's basic needs, to fulfill those basic needs. And on the other hand, there's absolutely no point in any of it, which is a very liberating conclusion to come to, in actual fact, if you sort of meditate on it in a calm sort of way. And it's nothing to be afraid of. This void, this nothingness, this meaninglessness, if you like, this complete non-existent. It's nothing to be afraid of. But really, I sort of knew where Danny Shine was going with all this, because he was trying to say that we should live a minimal life. That is to say, we should only satisfy the very basic biological needs that we have, which we perceive are real, and not fill ourselves up with, with the religion of consumerism, which makes us buy stuff that we don't need, that actually constructs desires in our heads, where there were not desires before, and concerns where there weren't any concerns before. So, for example, the hair conditioner. If you don't have hair conditioner, your hair will be terrible. That's actually not true, but the advertisers have manipulated us to believe that hair conditioner is an absolutely necessary thing to have, and therefore you will buy hair conditioner if you belong to any group of people that are concerned about the quality of their hair, and not just women, but men, gay women, transsexuals, transvestites, the whole lot of you, basically. You've all been brainwashed into this thing, whether you like it or not. This desire for hair conditioner, for example, if it exists. So I knew where Danny Shine was taking this. He was sort of taking, rebel against consumerism and that anti-consumerist message. But he actually never got as far as that, because, he was describing the matrix, that in fact reality is like a matrix. It's been constructed biologically. That's true, but it's also been constructed socially, sociologically, and with or by capitalism, by capitalist forces, so that have moulded our thinking. And he was describing this matrix through his megaphone at people who are eating their food and drinking their wine in this outdoor restaurant area in London somewhere, and he got us he got severely criticised, I would say, by somebody who looked literally like not literally like Agent Smith from the movie Matrix, but someone who certainly fulfilled the role of Agent Smith, and who actually threatened to beat Danny Shine up for ruining their meals. Now, actual fact, he looked a bit like the guy who actually betrayed all the people in the Matrix. Actually, I've forgotten his name. Was it was it Echo or Target or Trip or Radar? I think his name was Radar, wasn't it? Anyway, he betrayed them, and he wanted to be plugged back into the Matrix in exchange for giving Agent Smith information that would lead to the destruction of the rebels. So classic sort of story there. But so this little man, a bald-headed man, was a bit like Agent Smith, and he really wanted to stop Danny Shine from continuing his sermon, if you like, on the evils of consumerism, which of course obviously is shared very much by the Church of Nowhere, this anti-consumerist stand. So he tried to shut him up, basically, like literally shut him up, because he was offering to literally to beat the shit out of him, and called him loads of names and was particularly mean to him. So mean that Danny Shine didn't actually have time to do his usual meditation when people are being threatening. He just didn't have time, and he was luckily there happened to be a policewoman around to actually stop Danny Shine from being beaten up, I would suggest. So anyway, and other people then chimed in and supported this little thug in his efforts to shut up Danny Shine. It's an incredible video to watch, because you're actually, when you first watch it, you've got your stomach in your mouth, actually, because you're really kind of thinking that Danny Shine is going to get literally murdered before your very eyes. So it's kind of a dramatic video called Virtual Anger as well. Description below, the link is below in the description. So that was it, but the point is, you see, that it's very interesting because that's not the first time that a little man, and it's always a man, has come up and literally threatened Danny Shine with death and destruction if he doesn't shut up about things that make people feel uncomfortable. But you know, the answer, in fact, to Danny Shine on that particular day was to go up to him and say, well, you know, I'm eating a juicy steak and drinking some nice red wine, and like the guy in the Matrix, I don't care that these things don't exist. I'm living in the moment, the hedonistic moment of enjoyment. I've got this juicy steak and I've got this nice red wine, and I'm drinking and I'm feeling happy, and I'm with my friends and everything seems okay to me. And I really don't care if it is a matrix. And I really don't care if this matrix has been constructed by commercial interests that are making money out of me, that making profit out of the enjoyment of this juicy steak and this red wine. I really don't care. And that would be the answer, actually, without getting all shirty and nasty about it. I can only assume, in fact, that these sort of Agent Smiths type people that come up to Danny Shine and start mouthing off have an actual spark of interest in the whole idea that we could live in a matrix constructed socially, and that we are all, in fact, sheeple. And sheep, actually, we're not individuals, but we're just being drawn into a vortex of norms, values, and beliefs which are being constructed for us, and we're just following all the rest of the sheep in belonging to this matrix, in not rebelling against this matrix. And I think that there's a kind of a spark of guilt there, or interest in breaking out themselves, and that's why they get so angry with him, because that they actually are desperate to leave this ridiculous matrix, which they can see all around them, and which they think they can do nothing about. Which brings me on to, of course, the thing about the Church of Nowhere. In many ways, you can't do anything about this matrix. If you have a biological need called hunger, you've got to satisfy that biological need. It's just that if you live minimally, you don't have to join in the rat race. You don't have to join in the commercialization of your biological needs, if you like. You don't have to belong to that particular matrix, even though you can't really escape the matrix that you are actually in. So it's like a double whammy, you see, because we've created two matrices in a way. The matrix of the biological something in which we all exist and from which we all desire to be satisfied in some way and to have our hungers satisfied in some way, which is good in that sense of the word, and natural in quotation marks. And but we've also created this matrix of commercialization and of acquisitiveness, acquisitiveness and avarice and ambition, which are very much unnecessary parts of the matrix, which are things that we have created, if you like. And if we were in a matrix in the Garden of Eden, when we fell out of the Garden of Eden, we just created an even worse matrix, an even worse system of enslavement of the soul, of the spirit, of the things that are of value, which is our own individual self. And we've created a worse prison for ourselves, a worse stick to beat ourselves with than we ever had before. So that's basically all that Danny Shine was attempting to say on that particular day 3 years ago in London to those people, munching on their steaks and drinking their red wine. And that was all he was trying to say. But he never got a chance to say it, but he has said it on numerous other occasions, of course, being a revealer, as one might call him, of the Church of Nowhere. And we wish him well. And he's the only person at the moment doing that. Well, other people on YouTube have actually done that as well. Love Police, I can think of as well. Charles Vetch, I think his name was. He used to do it. And it's a good message to have. And within my own circle of music composers, there's this thing called GAS, which is called Gear Acquisition Syndrome, when you basically buy loads and loads of hardware and software that you don't actually need because you think it'll make you a better composer or a better musician or a better producer. When in fact what you should be doing is using the tools that you have got more effectively to actually make better music and to produce better sounds. And that's perfectly possible because people have done that for many, many decades before there was all this choice of software and hardware around. So it's something. It's a consumerism, commercialization, and over-consumerism is something which is discussed by people of many walks of life. So I think that Danny Shine, sort of all power to him really, and at least his attempt to bring people, to reveal to people the matrix that they're actually living in, was made and recorded for posterity, even if he couldn't actually finish what he was wanting to say. But he did say it on other occasions. It's just a shame that Agent Smith did stop him on that occasion, whereas other people might actually have been listening away and might have tried not to listen to Danny Shine, but listened nonetheless, even on the subconscious level. So that's one thing that you can do, is you can appeal to people's subconsciouses and try to bring them into the light of realization that they're living in a matrix, one matrix which they can't do very much about, and another matrix which they probably could do something about if only they would have the courage to do so. And that would include me as well, of course.